Last week's ER interview with K-pop DJ Jahshii creating something of a social media buzz. The youngster, as they say, talking the things. For some, revealing a bit too much. Others giving Jahshii ratings for raw honesty. For another take on the interview, we turn to psychocultural researcher Gavin Walters.
All right, Gavin, what was your takeaway from last week's interview with Jahshii?
I thought the interview had honesty. It had a youth that was being real. I thought I had a little bit of shock and awe in it as well, just because of how candid he was.
Would you say Jahshii's view of the cops, the matter-of-fact nature of what he had to say about crime and violence, reflect what many youngsters in tough areas of Jamaica are also thinking and feeling?
Without doubt. I have reasons with many youth, living communities as well too, and the time that I've spent and what I've seen. This is a reality. This is their reality. This is their interpretation. This is their perspective of the Jamaican society. So in this time, when we can think back to a time, for example, when Bob and Dennis Brown was singing about the harshness of life, it got that support from the people because that was what they were seeing. Jahshii and his colleagues now are doing the same thing. The language is a little more straightforward, if you want to put it that way. But yeah, it's really reflective of how they are seeing the world and their scope at this time.
It's a very grim reflection.
Yeah. And this is probably a part of the narrative that I'm glad that we're speaking about this matter now, just to interject to say, it's not that there aren't any opportunities for youth. Probably what's happening is that where the opportunities are, there's no connection between those and the youth. So if I can't see it, if you're telling me that something's out there for me and I can't see it, it amounts to zero or nil. And that is it. So they're speaking from where they're sitting from because they can't see it. So we need, from a societal point of view, to really make that connection.
So to the extent that Jahshii's talk was real, why does that kind of honesty provoke such a heated response?
I guess I could ask, who are the persons or the cross-section of our society that is having that kind of to how Jahshii represented himself and that cross-section of Jamaica that is experiencing the very things he's speaking of? I think in the broad look that I've made of the commentary, most persons are saying, oh bro, most candid, most real, loved how he just spoke his mind. There's a lot of support for what he said. I think for those of us that hold our breath when he says certain things, it's that looking glass scenario. He is forcing us to look at our society in a way that some of us are still not ready to deal with. And that cognitive dissonance that comes up, that not making that connection with how we want our society to be portrayed or seen versus the reality, is something that a lot of us are still having issues of grappling or dealing with.
Ultimately, it's a wake-up call.
It is. And us who have an opportunity to help, we need to stand up and do more. And at the same time, we need the youth to receive that help too. It goes two ways, because sometimes what may be on offer, some youths don't want it. They want something else. And with all of the allure and the excitement and that imagery that dancehall brings with it, sometimes it can create a false sense of access or ascension that you can just get it like that, and we're missing out some of the steps to success or the steps to moving from where you are to where you want to be. So we need that real discussion around lifestyles and portrayals too, because sometimes the dancehall lifestyle or the reggae lifestyle and the portrayal of glamour is not really all that you're really seeing. There's a lot of things behind that, and sometimes we may need to talk about that as well, so the youths them really get what I want.
Ultimately, the interview was a good look for Jahshii or not?
Good look for the youth, good look. Because even what's happening is, though some people may have had some issues with some of the things he said, what they're saying is, oh, but it's a young youth, man. Give him a chance, he might grow. And I can think of so many of our young artists who are now, who were young now, then, and big now. They made blunders, they made errors. They may have represented in a way that made some of us pull back. But, you know, them grow up now, then get a little bigger now, and then polish up the thing. But what cannot be mistaken is that the Bridging was real, true to life, and he was really representing a cross-section of Jamaica that see the system and the agents within the system that way. And he was really on point with that. So I just wish the youth all the best still.
The media should provide more opportunities for this kind of interview or not?
Wow, very good question. I think, again, the media, because the media has more controls, it has more stakeholders to answer to versus the artist in that sense. So yes, the media is important in reflecting these realities, but at the same time, probably not to put some gates around it too, because sometimes the rawness can hit some aspects of our society, so a cross-section of our society, and we have to be sensitive to that. So I think the media is being true to tapping into these pockets of information that exist, but ultimately the media has a responsibility to package, cater to, tailor the messages that it gives to the public ultimately. And that was actually a critique that I did see of the interview, that hey, probably you could have tailored it a little more. So, you know.
What do you mean tailored it?
Wow, some people felt that Jahshii's interview was so raw, and again, coming back to my point of cognitive dissonance, that what TVJ did was capture that. In all honesty, you didn't try to filter it. I didn't see where TVJ filtered it. But for some people, they can't deal with that. So if where he spoke about what he may have done with his brethren, should he find that they were less than loyal, some people weren't ready for that. You know, so I guess they would have said, okay, yeah, he said that, but you didn't have to air it, you know? While for others, it was like, wow, that's real, because that is a sentiment in the street now. We hear the youth them saying that if someone disloyal, this is how we're going to deal with it. So ultimately, it's a judgment call on the part of the media.